Before talking about TV and all of this stuff, I do want to wish the best for Stuart Friesen. If you haven't caught the news, Stuart Friesen was in a pretty horrific dirt crash yesterday in a dirt car race, and he is doing well, but he has suffered a multitude of injuries, and I just want to wish the best for he and his family. And at the end of the day, health, family, everything like that is much more important than racing. So give your thoughts, prayers, anything towards Stuart Friesen that you can. And now let's go into the video. When NASCAR announced that TNT was returning to cover the sports, a lot of people were really excited. And why wouldn't they be? There's a lot of nostalgia that's been built up over the last 10 years, and there were some really great moments back in the day in the old summer six-pack. But since then, we have had 5 races with TNT being back. And I wanted to look at the positives and the negatives because I do think that there was a lot of good, but there was a lot that needed to be improved upon. So without further ado, let's get on into it. Let's start with the positive here, the on-air talent. The booth of Adam Alexander, Steve Letarte, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the same as the Prime booth, and I think that helped a ton because while there might have been differences in how TV and streaming run things, you could tell that they all had chemistry with each other and could build off of each other. Adam Alexander has come into his own over the last decade or so as an announcer and is much better than he was back when he was the lead announcer for TNT from 2010 to 2014. Steve Letarte is pretty damn good with strategy, even if he seems to always get the fuel stuff wrong when it comes to the end of these fuel mileage races. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. brings emphasis and also enthusiasm that nobody else really can. His love for the sport is unmatched, and having him back is noticeably better than it was in 2024 when he was not in the booth at all. So I absolutely loved that. And also in the pits, while they did seem a bit green, as some of them had not had much experience when it came to the pit reporting side of things, I think that Marty Snyder obviously has been there for a while and is great. Danielle Trotta, I think, did a good job. And Alan Cavana, in my opinion, is going to be somebody who will be in the pits for a long time as somebody that I think, again, has a lot of youth enthusiasm. On the other side of the positives, and I know people are going to be a little torn on this, and I do have some negatives and things to improve on it I'll talk about later, but I liked the in-season challenge. I know people are critical of it. I know there are a lot of people that don't like it, but to me, this was a fun little side quest. It doesn't affect the championship in any way. Honestly, it doesn't affect too much how a lot of people raced it, especially with how it started, and it did give us some fun storylines that, let's be honest, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about these drivers. It was Ty Dillon's season, and in my opinion, it was really fun having that Cinderella story without it having to be some contrived mess that really ruined the season in any way. And on top of all of that, it was just really fun to kind of see that side by side and see how this could be done in NASCAR. To me, this would be something that would be really fun to look at if they improved a few things. Maybe the schedule, maybe the way they seeded things. I think that the best part of the in-season challenge is that while it was probably 50-50, maybe a little more disliked than liked, it can definitely be improved upon and be better in 2026 if Turner, TNT, and NASCAR all decide to bring it back. Now, something I think we can all get behind, and I don't think too many people noted it after we've seen improvements over the last year in broadcasting with this, is the side-by-side commercial breaks. Let's be honest, there were way more than we saw on Fox for the total race, and honestly, there were way more than we saw on NBC. I did notice this, and I think it should be applauded. A lot of people really didn't talk too much about it, but it seemed like during every green flag run, there was always side-by-side commercials rather than full screen. And that is the direction they should be going. We shouldn't have to miss anything in the big 2025. 2005, sure, that was a completely different era in coverage. Now, we need to see everything. We are very much a generation and a culture that needs to see everything bang, bang, bang as it happens. And I think this is an overall push this year that a lot of the partners are doing with the side-by-side commercials. I noticed more on Fox this year. I noticed more on the CW. Prime changed the game, and at the end of last year, NBC was doing something similar at least the super speedways of Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega. So this is something, again, I want TNT to do next year. If they have to have a lot of commercial breaks, at least have us not have to miss anything. Now for the negatives. First off, the entire Chicago broadcast. Simply put, I think it was a mess. There were bad camera angles. They missed a ton of different action pieces, including Bowman versus Bubba. The audio was too low at times and then sometimes too loud. And on top of that, it was honestly just overall in just about every way a downgrade from how NBC covered the event for the last 2 years. Whether you liked it or didn't like it, you can't deny that Chicago with NBC was covered like it was a huge major event, and viewership-wise, it backed that up. It did improve, I will say TNT did, in the next few weeks, and I think that this was the low point, and I will give them credit, Dale Earnhardt Jr. especially, for acknowledging the problems that people had with it and seemingly at least trying to address it. But that still cannot undo the fact that what could be the last Chicago street race was just a complete mess on the broadcaster side. On the other end of the in-season challenge side, I said there'd be some positives and negatives. Well, the negatives is that, in my opinion, the main broadcast, they focused way too much on it, especially in the first 2 races of Atlanta and Chicago. While I liked it, and sometimes I felt like it was something fun to bring up when there was a lull in the race, it did feel like at Atlanta and Chicago that they tried to force it too much with all of the different matchups. And I don't think that necessarily it's a too horrible of a thing. Again, there's probably a lot of people who are betting on it that would tune in simply for that, but I think that it could be covered better without taking away from the overall race. To me, I think maybe having matchup or head-to-head graphics on the bottom, say a bottom ticker that shows where each person is running compared to who they're against, might be a better way to go about it. And that way you're not taking away from the overall race, but you're still giving a ton of good information. There were times that they would take away from battles up in the top 5 so they could cover 2 guys running below 20th who were in the in-season challenge. And NASCAR fans, I don't think, want to see that, and I think that's a big part of why there was a bad taste in people's mouths about it. And then the last negative, and it's completely unfair, I acknowledge that, and I know that it's wrong probably for me to have viewed it this way, but I think subconsciously I did for a while, was that it just wasn't Prime. Listen, Prime might not have changed the game in viewership, but it changed the game in a couple of different ways. Quality of broadcast as well as audience in particular. And when you follow up somebody that has changed it so well, you're going to be behind the 8 ball from the get-go. And if TNT didn't knock it out of the park at Atlanta, which I don't think they did, then you're going to just probably roll down the negative track. And again, I don't think it's fair to them at all. I don't even hold it against them because of how different the mediums are. But at this point, when you have somebody that good, anyone that was going to follow them up was going to be seen in a negative light. And listen, there's things they probably can take over from Prime. I think maybe having a better pre-race show, maybe having less commercials if possible. But at the end of the day, this is something they can't really help. So I'm not holding it too much against them. So overall, I will give TNT the grade of a C. I think that this was, plainly put, average broadcast. I think they got better as they went. I think the Brickyard was their best overall broadcast, but it wasn't as bad as Fox or as insulting as them to watch, but it wasn't Prime, it wasn't NBC, and it wasn't the CW. It was just in the middle. The good news is I think they can improve, and I think they will improve year over year heading into 2026. But with that, I want to hear what you think. What grade would you give TNT? Am I being too harsh or am I being too lenient? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.